Ugh, you know that feeling, right? That awful burning sensation that just creeps up your chest after you eat? For millions of people, heartburn, acid reflux, it's just this constant, frustrating part of life. You pop an antacid, you cross your fingers, and you just hope for the best. But what if I told you the reason it keeps coming back is that we've been fighting the wrong enemy this whole time?
Okay, let's just dive right into this, because the latest research points to a fascinating medical mystery. Seriously, the story we've all been told about acid reflux, that it's because you have way too much stomach acid, that might just be one of the biggest misconceptions in modern medicine.
So our investigation really starts by putting two totally different ideas side by side. On one hand, you have the common belief. Heartburn happens because your stomach is just this out-of-control acid factory. But the truth? Well, it's a lot more interesting. The problem isn't the amount of acid. It's the fact that it's ending up in the wrong place, your esophagus, where it absolutely does not belong.
Okay, so if acid is escaping, the first question has to be, how? How is it getting out? And this leads us to the real scene of the crime. And surprise, it's not the acid itself. It's a mechanical failure at a supercritical gateway in your body.
Let me introduce you to our prime suspect, the lower esophageal sphincter, or LES for short. The easiest way to think about it is like a muscular trapdoor between your esophagus and your stomach. Food goes down, the trapdoor swings open, and then it's supposed to slam shut, sealing everything inside the stomach nice and tight.
And here's the crucial point. When that trapdoor is working the way it's supposed to, it creates a perfect seal. I mean, your stomach could be a raging cauldron of acid, but a healthy LES? It wouldn't let a single drop out. So the real mystery isn't about the acid. It's about what in the world is forcing this valve open when it should be closed.
And that leads us to the motive in our investigation. What could possibly have enough power to pry open a strong, muscular valve from the wrong direction? The answer is actually pretty simple, and it's invisible: pressure.
This force has a name: intra-abdominal pressure, or IAP. Imagine your abdomen is kind of like a balloon. If you create way too much pressure inside that balloon, something has to give, right? Well, this internal pressure builds up and it pushes upward, literally forcing that LES trapdoor open from the bottom.
And right here, you can see that chain of events in action. It's pretty straightforward. Food comes into the stomach, but then something causes excess gas to get created. This gas builds up, cranking up the pressure inside your abdomen until, pop, it physically pushes that valve open and you've got reflux. But wait a second, where is all this gas coming from? I mean, you're not just swallowing a bunch of air. This is where a new character enters our story, an accomplice that's been hiding in plain sight this whole time.
You see, the gas is actually a byproduct of fermentation. Specifically, it gets created when bacteria in your gut get their hands on undigested food, especially carbs. They basically have a huge feast, and the waste product from that party is gas, a lot of gas.
And the number one culprit behind this little fermentation factory is a condition called small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO. This is basically when huge colonies of bacteria decide to set up camp in your small intestine, a place where they really don't belong. And there, they just sit and wait for undigested food to show up.
Now, let's look at the hard evidence. There was a landmark study that compared people with GERD to a control group, and the results were pretty stunning. A full 64% of the GERD patients tested positive for SIBO. That is way higher than the control group. The connection was undeniable. And here it is, the smoking gun from that very same study. Researchers actually measured the hydrogen gas in people's breath, which is a direct sign of bacterial fermentation. That blue line? That's the GERD patients. It shows dramatically higher levels of gas production. It's simple. More bacteria means more gas, which means more pressure. The evidence is right there in the data.
Okay, so we've got our mechanism, right? Pressure from gas that's produced by SIBO. But our investigation isn't over yet. We still have to ask, why is the bacterial overgrowth happening in the first place? And the answer to this reveals the true and honestly completely unexpected mastermind behind this whole thing.
You know, even top medical journals are starting to admit that we've been looking in the wrong direction. Just listen to this editorial from the journal Gastroenterology. They say that just blocking acid doesn't fix the underlying problem. So, what is that primary defect?
This is the part where we have to totally reframe how we think about stomach acid. We've been treating it like it's the villain of the story, but its real job, it's supposed to be the hero of our digestive system, Having the right amount of stomach acid is our body's first line of defense. It sterilizes our food, it kills off unwanted bacteria, and it triggers all the enzymes we need to digest our food properly.
And here it is, the entire causal chain, the whole story of reflux, laid out from start to finish. And get this, it doesn't start with too much acid, it starts with too little. Without enough acid, bacteria don't get killed off, which leads to SIBO. Then, those bacteria ferment the food you couldn't digest, which produces all that gas and pressure. That pressure forces the valve open, and only then, at the very end, does the acid get into your esophagus and cause that burn. It's completely backwards.
So, now that we've kind of unraveled the core biochemical mystery, we can zoom out and see how this whole thing connects to other major factors. It really creates this complex web of cause and effect.
First, there's a huge mechanical piece to this puzzle. It turns out that same intra-abdominal pressure that forces the valve open can also, over time, literally push the top part of your stomach up through your diaphragm. This is called a hiatal hernia, and get this, research suggests it's a factor in a staggering 80 to 100% of acid reflux cases. The pressure is the root of both problems.
So when you look at the whole picture, you see it's not just one thing. It's a system, right? Low stomach acid allows for bacterial overgrowth. That SIBO creates gas and pressure. The pressure then causes both the reflux and the hiatal hernias. And the thread that connects all of them, stress and anxiety, which can mess up every single step in this process.
And this is exactly why studies have found such a strong link between things like anxiety and GERD. The stress isn't just in your head. It has a direct physical impact on your digestion, on your acid production, and on the pressure inside your gut. It's your body responding to a real physical system that's just been thrown completely out of whack.
So, the huge takeaway here is this. Acid reflux is just the symptom. It's not the disease. It's just the final domino to fall in a long, complicated chain reaction. And that leaves us with one last really important question. If the cause isn't simple, should the solution be? Can the answer really be found in a pill that just turns off the acid while completely ignoring the entire chain of events that came before it?